In pro wrestling, if you're going to copy someone, you'd better hope the original is dead, retired, or mildly concussed. Unfortunately for the powers of pain, the Road Warriors were none of those things. They were alive, pissed off, and built like two walking evictions from the Book of Revelation. Now, everybody and their dog tried to rip off the Road Warriors. From the Blade Runners to the Ascension, wrestling promoters have always treated the LOD formula like IKEA furniture. Easy to copy, impossible to get right, and somehow missing half the parts. The Road Warriors noticed, and they hated it. Not quietly, not politically. They hated it like a prison inmate hates a lookalike on visitation day. Hawk and Animal weren't flattered. They wanted blood, and they got it. This is the shoot hatred between the Road Warriors and the powers of pain. Let's take the paint off. It started in Jim Crockett Promotions, 1987. The Road Warriors were the kings of the gym rat apocalypse, bench-pressing tag teams into next week and growling their promos like they had permanent strep throat. And then, out of nowhere, here came two more meat tanks, powers of pain, smashing jobbers, snarling at the camera and showing up with their own mohawks and shoulder pads like they'd just crawled out of the Road Warriors' deleted scenes. Now, the Road Warriors didn't just hate them because they looked the same. It was worse. Fans started confusing them. Kids at the merch tables thought Barbarian was Animal. One promoter allegedly asked Hawk if he'd already wrestled that night, after watching Barbarian in the ring. That kind of mix-up might be forgivable if you're a comedy gimmick, but Hawk wasn't exactly known for his zen. He didn't just stew in silence, he talked shit constantly. In shoot interviews, Animal later said, "We were first. We were the originals. Those guys were just trying to ride our wave. It was insulting." To Hawk, it was personal. "I don't care if they're tough. They're fake us. They're copycats. They're knockoffs." Imagine being the toughest guy in the room, only to find out there's a guy in the corner pretending to be you for attention. The Road Warriors hated the powers of pain like a mob. Boss hates an impersonator doing birthday parties. It wasn't parody, it was identity theft. So what do you do when someone copies your gimmick and invades your turf? You wait for the bell, and you break them. Smash that like button like Animal smashed knockoff tag teams in 1988. Hit subscribe so you don't miss more savage backstage beef, real shoot fights, and the kind of wrestling drama that would make your grandma weep in kayfabe. We ain't done. The beatdown gets worse from here. So here's where it all snapped. Vince McMahon, the man who looked at steroid mountains like Warlord and Barbarian and said, "Yes, but can you do it with glitter?" He wanted them. Badly. He saw them in JCP and thought, "Finally, I can clone the Road Warriors without dealing with Hawk threatening to suplex me through catering." Problem was, the powers of pain were still under contract with Crockett. Except they weren't. Because somebody, and I'm looking at you, Paul Jones, allegedly whispered sweet nothings about promises and you'll never have to job, and poof, they were gone. Out the back door. Just vanished mid-feud. The Road Warriors were left holding the bag and the payday. JCP was pissed. Hawk and Animal, they were nuclear. Not just because the match didn't happen, but because the powers of pain bailed before the receipts got handed out. Animal said it plain, they left before they had to do business. That's coward shit. And in the world of 80s tag team alpha doggery, skipping the finish isn't just disrespectful. It's like no showing a fist fight you started. WWF booked them against Demolition instead, but it always felt like the Road Warriors versus the copy-paste Commandos was the money fight, and Hawk never let it go. When they finally got to WWF, all that bad blood didn't disappear. It boiled, quietly, like a pressure cooker full of pre-workout and ego. Animal years later didn't sugarcoat it. They avoided us in the WWF. They knew we didn't forget. That kind of thing stays with you. And he meant it. You didn't need a shoot interview. You just had to watch how the Road Warriors didn't work with them. No tags, no eye contact, nothing. Just silence. This wasn't just about stolen gimmicks. It was about who got to call themselves the real kings of Smash-Mouth tag team wrestling. And when it came time to settle it, the Road Warriors never got their pound of flesh, but they never stopped talking about it. And every interview, every podcast, every bar story ended the same way. Fuck the powers of pain. They never paid the toll. Let's cut the crap and look at what happened when the dust settled on this paint-splattered battlefield. The Road Warriors? Those guys were the WWF's untouchable juggernauts of the late 80s and 90s, long after the powers that be thought they'd fizz out. Hawk and Animal were the blue-collar bruisers who made the business look like an audition for a post-apocalyptic buddy cop movie. They dominated Japan, WCW and the WWF alike, winning titles, selling merch like hotcakes, and bench-pressing everyone who dared step in their path. Their legacy? Untouchable. They're in the Wrestling Hall of Fame because they earned it. Not with words, but with wrecking crews of broken opponents and a reputation for having the meanest eyes this side of a tax audit. Even decades later, the Warriors were still talking shit about Powers of Pain because in wrestling, grudges age like fine wine, except the wine is actually pure gasoline. The Powers of Pain? They had their moments, a strong WWF run, no memorable entrants, and some decent matches. But let's be honest, they were the tag team version of a movie sequel nobody asked for. After the WWF, they kind of faded out. Injuries, creative stagnation, and the ever-present label of those guys who tried to be the Warriors but came off like a budget Halloween costume. They never shook that shadow, never truly escaped the knockoff stigma. Their legacy is a footnote, a cautionary tale for anyone thinking they can copy a juggernaut without getting crushed. Barbarian and Warlord eventually left wrestling, moved on to other things, and mostly stayed out of the spotlight. No HOF inductions, no legendary shoot interviews laying waste to the industry, just a long shadow cast by two guys who got too close to the originals and paid the price. So while the Warriors went down in history as the titans of tag team terror, the Powers of Pain became the guys you point at and say, yeah, they tried. Kinda. Like and subscribe if you love a good underdog story, but not the kind where the underdog is just the guy who forgot to read the manual. Smash that bell before Barbarian comes for your face paint. This wasn't just a case of two big tag teams colliding. This was a slow, sweaty, backstage bar fight that never ended. One side had real power, the other had rented intimidation and overdue face paint. The Road Warriors didn't just hate the Powers of Pain, they resented the very idea of them. Two guys built in a lab by a promoter who thought bigger meant better, with zero regard for the original formula. Hawk and Animal were forged in Southside Chicago gyms in Japanese shoot-fight hellholes. Barbarian and Warlord? They came off like they got their gimmick at Party City, 2-for-1 deal on spikes and silent stairs. And the worst part? The Powers of Pain didn't even do anything to deserve that heat, besides exist. That's what makes it funny. Like being hated by your neighbor for mowing your lawn too similar. But in wrestling, that's enough. Especially when the guy doing the hating is Animal, who once said Warlord was a bad human, and Hawk, who probably thought you should die if you wore the same face paint as him. Sometimes heat isn't built, it's born. Like and subscribe. If you've ever copied someone's gimmick and got silently threatened by a guy named Animal, smash that like button. If your tag partner can't cut a promo and you still think you deserve TV time, subscribe. And if you just love watching fake tough guys get real heat from legit killers, then brother, you've already stayed too long not to click.